Good morning. Any one essential elements of consideration?
So, forbearance,
Okay,
sir,
Deepshika, kindly check. Kindly check. Okay, mute yourself and switch off your video. Hansraj, roll number 45.
Yes, sir.
Any one essential element of
Sir,
consideration?
must be given at the desire of the promisor.
Okay. Thank you, Hansraj. Switch off the video and mute yourself. Let me check others. Hargovind,
Yes, sir.
switch on your video also, Hargovind. Essential element, one already communicated. Hargovind, you have to unmute yourself. Muted.
Sorry, sir, I haven't seen that the essential element of the consideration is that both parties need to accept each other's terms and conditions before making a final pact.
Hargovind, my question is, can you tell me any one essential element of a consideration? You can check your copy if you have written anything.
Okay, sir, just a So consideration must move at the desire of its promisor.
That is already communicated. Apart from this,
Sir, it may be based upon the present or future event, but not upon a past event.
no. So that means you have written it wrong. Consideration may be past, present, or future.
Just,
This is
have
the point which we
noted
have.
that.
So kindly correct it if you have written it wrong. Thank you, Hargovind. You can switch it off and you can mute yourself. Pratiksha, roll number 70. Whether Pratiksha in a class, let me check. Pratiksha, kindly unmute yourself. Okay, so Pragyashri, roll number 67. Whether you are in a class, so Pragyashri is absent. Mansita Mishra. Mansita,
yes,
am
sir.
I audible, Mansita?
Yes, sir.
So Mansita, any one essential element which I have not communicated?
So it may move from the promisee to another person.
I think it already discussed. First point, consideration,
It must be real. The
not illusionary.
consideration must be real. Yes.
Okay, thank you, Mansita. You can mute yourself and you can switch off your video. All right, so let us proceed further. It seems that the majority of you are back. So let us begin our next topic. Before starting the next topic, a few questions in my mind. So let me ask those questions. Whether Ankita Kumari is in a class? Let me check. Okay, she's not in a class. Ankit. Ankit
Yes,
Kumar.
sir. Yes, sir.
Switch on your video also, Ankit.
Yes, sir.
Ankit, as per your view, whether you are entitled to enter into a contract,
Yes, sir.
who others are entitled?
Sir, anyone? Sir,
Okay.
will I?
How about a old person of 100 years of age?
No, sir, I don't think so.
Whether he is entitled, he or she is entitled to enter into a class, enter into a contract. Ankit,
Maybe.
maybe. All right. How about transgenders? Whether they are entitled to enter into a contract?
Yes, sir.
How about a woman who is in a hospital and undergoing some medical treatment?
No, sir.
And why no?
Sir, because there is not a condition that the patient will survive or not. Yes, not.
But she mentally she is sound. She know everything what's going on. All right. So Ankit, I think the doubts has been raised, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Now there is a ambiguity created in your mind that who are entitled to enter into a contract, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So Ankit, just switch off your video and mute yourself because we are going to discuss this matter. Okay. Abranil, can you unmute yourself?
Yes, sir.
Abranil, same question I want to ask from you. How about an old person of 100 years of age?
Sir, he can enter into a contract, but like, will he be able to understand the terms of the contract? That is difficult to say.
Okay, fine. And what about a woman who is lying on the bed at hospital and she's undergoing a surgery?
Sir, they will be getting that, what is that called, sir? Anesthesia. So under that effect,
Anesthesia still, anesthesia is given to a lower part of her body, but the upper part and the mind is stable and she is not in a sleeping mode.
sir, I think then she can enter into a contract, like in that
Okay.
situation.
Now, I'll tell you one situation. How about these category of person, though, like a person in a bar, highly intoxicated. When he came out of a bar, he is giving a proposal to everyone that I am selling my house for ₹1. Take it. How about that?
No, sir, nobody will take him seriously.
No, but he's saying I'm serious. I'm not under intoxication. I'm very serious and I am selling it. These are my document. No, even he is carrying a document with him, the property document. Then
Sir, Sir, but since he is so much drunk, I don't think like he will be able to participate in the contract because he's not of sound mind right now.
okay, fine. So there's a purpose for asking these questions, that we really have to analyze as per law that who are the parties competent to enter into a contract. So the topic is actually related to the competency of the parties. Abranil, thank you. You can mute yourself and switch off your video. Let us begin this session. Okay. Based on these illustrations, and just to tell you that law itself have given this, that who are competent to enter into a contract, who are not competent to enter into a contract. This law have provided us. So let us check firstly the section in which it was written that who are competent to enter into a contract. So regarding competency of the parties, section 10, 11 and 12 are the sections which are important. I just want to show the law itself, that what law have stated. So I'm just opening it, the document of the BEAR Act. Please confirm whether my screen is visible.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Afreen, whether you are in a class?
Yes, sir.
Afreen, switch on your video also, and you have to read provision. I'm going to tell you. Whether you're able to see section 11,
Yes, sir.
please read it.
Who are competent to contract? Every person is competent to contract who is of the age of majority according to the law to which he is subject, and who is of sound mind and is not disqualified from contracting by any law to which he is subject.
Okay. So, Afreen, I request you that please read it again.
Yes, sir. Every person is competent to contract who is of the age of majority according to the law to which he is subject, and who is
Hold
of
on, hold on. This and, okay, remember this and. Please read it further.
who is of sound mind
Hold
and
on. Again, please remember this and. Now,
is not disqualified from contracting by any law to which he is subject.
section 11 gives the law that who are the parties competent to enter into a contract. By providing section 11, law have clarified it that there is some category of person who are entitled to enter into a contract. There is a category of a person who are disqualified to enter into a contract. Now, there are three parameters for entering into a contract. That means parties should be competent if they fulfill three categories, three parameters. Now, I have emphasized on the words and. There are two places you can see and. Who is of the age of majority, first category. And who is of sound mind. That if you are a major, that doesn't mean you are entitled to a contract. You must be of sound mind. Third category, and is not disqualified by law. All the three parameters have to be fulfilled. That means all three parameters are a mandate to be a party under a contract. If any one parameter is missing, that means suppose a person is major, a person is of sound mind, but a person is disqualified by law, then he is not entitled to enter into a contract. So there are three parameters law have given under section 11. Afreen, thank you, and let us proceed further. So let me just share my PowerPoint presentation, which I have prepared in an easy manner. Here it is. Please confirm whether my screen is visible.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so it is basically competency. I don't know why I've written capacity. competency of contracting parties, or you can also write it, who are the parties competent to enter into a contract. So this explanation is basically provided from section 10 to section 12, but major part which we can see in section 11. Now, who can be major? Okay. Earlier, there is a situation that for the different aspect, the age of majority is 18. Some guidelines are there where the age of majority is 21, but now it is uniform, and uniformly it was provided in the law, that is the Majority Act in 1975, and it was declared that 18 and above is the age of majority. So this is what the minor and major concept is, that only as per law, as per section 11, only the parties who are 18 and above are entitled to enter into a contract. That is the first clause of section 11. And who is major? That means what defines majority? The majority defines under the Majority Act 1975, and it prescribes the age is 18 years and above. And also under the constitutional law, it was also provided as a universal adult franchise, that also communicated and that also referred this in the Majority Act 1975, that 18 and above is the age of majority. And I hope all of you are aware that only 18 and above are entitled for voting process during elections. So the voting also can be done by only 18 and above. That means who is major. Now proceeding further, parties who are competent to contract. Major, 18 and above, who is of sound mind and not expressly debarred by law. In case of debarred or disqualified, either word you can write. Person may be disqualified by law, may be debarred by law, but to please remember that all these 3 points are a mandate, that if a party wants to enter into a contract, party have to check whether he or she is entitled for the formation of a contract or not. So all these 3 parameters to be fulfilled. Okay, so if we see the opposite, the parties who are not competent to enter into a contract. So here is the list. Minor, below 18, they are not entitled or they are not competent to enter into a contract. So minor cannot enter into any kind of contract. Any agreement done with a minor is void ab initio. This is the terminology used in law, specifically related to minor, that any agreement with minor is void ab initio. Now, second category, if you see the second is sound mind, competent to contract. Unsound mind, not competent to contract. So many time often, let me check. Adarsh, please switch on your video and unmute yourself. Adarsh, roll number 6.
Yes, sir. So can I keep my video off?
Okay, you can be it
Thank
off.
you, sir.
All right. Am I audible to you, Adarsh?
Yes, sir.
Adarsh, have you heard the term idiot?
Yes, sir.
How many times and from whom?
Sir, from my friends.
From your friends. What they used to call you?
No, means others. Backbitching sort of.
Okay, so we used to hear this this term from some person, lunatic, idiots. So these are the categories of insanity. Insane. Okay. Insane
sir.
here refers to the terminology that or refers to that explanation that a person who not able to understand what's going on. So lunatic and idiots are basically comes under the parameter of unsoundness of mind. So whenever we say unsoundness of mind, that means a person is not able to understand the situation, or which we have discussed in the starting of this lecture, person under intoxicated state. So this lunatic and idiots is basically the medical terminology. Person under intoxication, that means a person have taken any kind of substance which makes that person as intoxicated. So when at the time of intoxication, the person not able to understand what he is doing, which we have discussed in the starting. So person now if not able to understand what he is doing, so law have stated that if a person under intoxication, the person will be considered as unsound at that point of time. Now, lunatic and idiots, it's very clear it's a form of the insanity, insane.
Yes,
And
sir.
insane, I hope everyone is aware. Okay, so Adarsh,
Yes, sir.
we have classified the person under intoxicated state as an unsound.
Yes.
Now, can you imagine that what happens if we remove that person from intoxication, from intoxicated state? That means a person even under intoxicated state can enter into a contract. Can you imagine what will happen? So the point here is, if we remove a person who is under intoxicated state, and if we put that person under this sound mind and is major and not expected by law, then what will happen? Every or many person will try to make a person under intoxication and then enter into a contract. So that's why law have stated that unsoundness of mind. So unsoundness of mind may be by way of any kind of disease, maybe by way of any kind of incident, or maybe by way of intoxication. So the point here is, when a person's mind is not able to work properly and he or she is not able to understand the gravity of a particular act, in that case we can say the person is unsound at that point of time only. Okay. Adarsh, please mute yourself. I think I have not asked any question from you. So we'll ask on the later stage. Okay. So these unsound person are not entitled to enter into a contract. Now, Abrinil, whether you got the answer, whether a person of 100 years of age can enter into a contract?
Yes, sir.
So the answer is yes, provided soundness
He's
of
of
his
sound.
mind.
Yes, sir.
So he must be sound, he or she must be sound at the time of formation of a contract. Now, this soundness, very, very important. Whether there is a kind of situation that a person is rarely unsound and majorly sound. So, anyone whether have seen a movie Ghazni?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
There is a Ghazni movie. Can you tell me that what happened in that? What is the state of mind of Amir Khan in that movie?
He was unsound.
Unsound all the time. That means permanency.
No, sir.
Then
But sometimes he used to forget things.
so can we say that sometimes unsound, sometimes sound?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now there are many movies, and are you aware of fates? Fates. There is some movements where people lost the soundness of a mind for some time, maybe 3 minutes, 5 minutes, or 1 hour. Generally, it is called as fates. Or when we, if I use a Hindi terminology, we used to say कि दौरा पड़ गया उसको, पागलपन का दौरा पड़ना. So there are situations like this. Now take an example of that Amir Khan. So he is usually sometimes sound, sometimes unsound. Whether that person with that state of mind can enter into a contract. So what are your views? Please type in a chat box. Am I audible? Alicia, roll number 14.
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Alicia, what is your view?
Sir,
That means sometimes a person is sound and sometimes unsound.
yes,
Like
sir.
I have referred the movie Ghazni and state of mind of the in that movie. So sometimes he is sound and sometimes he lost all the memory. So it's a memory loss.
Yes, sir.
So in that state of mind, whether a person can enter into a contract.
I think when the person is,
I'm just want your views. I'm not
yes,
saying
sir.
whether it's right or wrong. It depends.
So I think when the person will be completely fine, then it's okay for him to go for a contract.
And what will happen that after entering into a contract, he will go mad?
So no, I said that when he's completely fine.
I understand. When he's completely fine, he enter into a contract. The moment he signed a document, he becomes unsound. What is your view? What will happen then?
So for that, then
So
he
suppose
should.
I tell you, because you are studying BCom, I don't know what you want to become, whether CA, CS or some other corporate jobs. If I take it hypothetically, you become a chartered accountant. And you are a chartered accountant of that person. So what you will do? So what you will think that person entered into a contract, you have to keep the records, you have to do a proper accounting. After signing the document, it becomes unsound. So we have to know whether the contract will stand or not stand, because you as a chartered accountant have to do the proper accounting.
Yes, sir.
And you have to know the situation. Then you have to check from the legal angle that what will happen to that contract, whether it will stand or it will lapse, it becomes void, what will happen. So we are going to discuss that part. So thank you, Alicia. You can mute yourself, you can switch
Yes,
off
sir.
the video. So this situation is very, very interesting. To elaborate on this situation again, I would like to refer section 12. So I'm just sharing section 12, the Bayer Act. Please check it very minutely, and I'll tell you where the law is. So section 12. Amandeep, roll number 16. Amandeep.
Yes, sir.
So Amandeep, can you please read section 12?
Yes, sir. A person is said to be of sound mind for the purpose of making a contract if
For
at the time.
you please start from the heading itself.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Okay.
So just to tell you everyone that whenever we read law, please every time whenever you're reading law or you are suggesting someone any lines, please read it from the beginning, that from the heading itself. Yes.
Section 12. What is a sound mind for the purposes of contracting? A person is said to be of sound mind for the purpose of making a contract if at the time when he makes it.
Okay, hold on. To everyone, please do remember always this line from if at the time when he makes it. This is the most important part of section 12. Now, please read it further. Read it
He is
further.
capable of understanding it
And of
forming a rational judgment as to its effect upon his interests. A person who is usually of unsound mind but occasionally of sound mind may make a contract when he is of sound mind. A person who is usually of sound mind but occasionally of unsound mind may not make a contract when he is of unsound mind.
okay. Thank you. Now, just to tell you everyone, this is the section which have given a clarity regarding the concept of soundness of mind. And it is the section also provide the situation that when a person is majorly unsound or sometimes sound or majorly sounds or sometimes unsound, what we can do, whether that person can make a contract and cannot make a contract, but they are referring to the situation regarding soundness and unsoundness. Very, very important thing which the law have given under section 12, that if at the time when he makes it. So very, very important. Now, can anyone tell me what this it refers? Like if at the time when he makes it in a second line, this it is what? And no one is there to tell us.
So maybe agreement.
So Prachi has communicated, and else except Prachi?
Making the contract,
sir.
Contract.
So makes it. So please remember this.
The contract.
Yes, this it is actually contract. Now, if you refer it, if at the time when he makes it, only thing which law states that law is going to check that whether a person is sound mind, this soundness of mind is going to be checked only at the time of formation of a contract. If before the formation of a contract person is unsound, law will say it's fine, not a matter to us. If after making a contract a person goes unsound, then also law will say fine, it will be a contract, and the legal representatives of the unsound person then have to fulfill the contract. So the only thing is law is going to check this soundness of mind at the time of formation of a contract. That means when two parties are forming a contract, they are checking with the terms and condition, the consideration from both the sides, and the other related aspect related to contract. If both the parties able to understand it clearly, that means if both the parties are of sound mind at that time, that is only the important thing here. If after making a contract, if person goes unsound, fine. Law will say that contract will stand. It doesn't mean that contract will lapse or contract will comes to an end. The legal representatives of the unsound person have to fulfill the contract. So this is what the law states as per section 12. And based on this section 12, the PowerPoint presentation I have prepared like in that manner only. So here it is. Okay. So a person when usually of unsound mind, that means when a person is of unsound mind, the person is debarred by law, cannot enter into a contract. Person usually of sound mind, but at times unsound. That means at the time of formation of a contract, if a person is of sound mind, person is allowed to enter into a contract. Now, this is a concept which is called as a lucid intervals. And this is again a medical terminology, the lucid intervals. So here, lucid intervals refers to the situation where a person of sound mind or person unsound mind, but at times a person is unsound, or in case where a person unsound, it's sound. So let us take it this situation that a person is of unsound mind, and for some time that person got its memory back and becomes a sound. So that is the moment it is called as lucid intervals, and at that moment person is entitled to enter into a contract. So the only thing the law is going to check that at the time of formation of a contract, the person should be major, should be of sound mind, and must not expressly debarred by law. So this soundness of mind only matters at the time of formation of a contract as per section 12. So this thing only you need to remember. Now this when we have discussed lunatic and idiots, so lunatic and idiots were expressly defined by the medical sciences. There were certain situations. Some person are permanent insane, that means in no case their memory will be back, and some person their memory will be lost, but there are chances where a person can gain their there are chances where a person's memory will be back. So those person are entitled to enter into a contract when their memory comes back, or when they becomes a sound mind. So similarly, when we talk about the old age, if at that age, if that person able to understand the nature and consequences of a particular contract, then fine, law will not intervene. Law will say you can form a contract. So this is related to 2 points, the point of minor and point of unsound. Now, person expressly depart. Yes.
So can you please explain that old age one once more?
Yes, Isha. Regarding that old age, so now I have asked a question, what about the 100 years of age when a person is having, like person age of 100 years, whether he is or she is entitled to enter into a contract? So the point here is, law is not going to intervene in this situation. Law only says one thing, that even if a person is of 100 years of age, whether he or she able to understand the nature and consequences of a particular act. That means whether that old lady or old man is the mind is sound at the time of formation of a contract, so as to understand that whether the contract is beneficial or not for them. So law, there is no limitation. Law says only 3 parameters, that the person must be of sound mind at the time of formation of a contract. So even if it is of, if a person is of 105 years of age, if he's or she is of sound mind, able to understand the nature and consequences of a particular act, fine, they can enter into a contract. There's no restriction in the upper age limit. but there is a restriction in the lower age limit. That is, minimum age will be 18 years and above. That minimum age is 18, and below 18 they are not entitled.
So what if the person is not in he is not understanding what is happening,
So
like
that's it.
unsound
If he
mind?
is not able to understand it, then he can be called as unsound for the purpose of contract.
Yes, sir. And what if he has some property and it's not he doesn't have any hairs written after him? So what will happen to that thing?
In that case, the state government can take care of it. So if any regarding this situation, when a person don't have any legal representative, don't have any heirs, don't have any relatives, in that case what happened? Every property then belong to the state government, and the state government will take it courts and do the proceeding as per the norms.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
All right. Okay, so the last point here is the person expressly debarred by law. So even the person, if expressly debarred by law, are not competent to enter into a contract. Suppose if a person is 18 and above, sound mind, fine. 18 and above, fine. But that person is a convicted prisoner, and in the prison, he is in the prison, undergoing a sentence, lifetime in the jail for an act of murder. So that person then becomes incompetent to enter into a contract, because law have declared it that convicted prisoner cannot enter into a contract. Similarly, go with insolvent, that if a person goes insolvent and he or she is unable to pay the debts, he cannot take further debts, and he is not entitled to enter into a contract for a certain time limit. There's a time limit by the law. So after that timeline, they can enter into a contract, but for some time the insolvent are not competent to enter into a contract. So similarly with I hope you remember the term alien enemy. So let us ask Akarshan, roll number 10, whether you are in a class.
Yes, sir.
Akarshan, so who is alien enemy? You remember?
Sir, I don't think I was present in that class because I haven't heard this before.
Okay, in the initial 2 classes you were absent. All right. So any views on, have you heard this term alien enemy?
No, sir.
Okay. Anyone who have heard this term, or you were present at the time when we have discussed it? Akarshan, thank you. You can switch off your video and you can mute yourself.
Sir, the outsiders of the countries such as Pakistanis and don't belong to our country, sir, or Chinese people, sir, who are outsiders, who are considered as aliens or foreigners.
Vipul, if we consider Chinese as an alien enemy, then I don't know what will be an impact on the Indian economy, because are you aware that we can also do the inter-country contracts?
No, sir, I'm not aware.
We can do inter-country contracts. How about export and import?
Yes, sir, yes, sir.
That is a kind of inter-country contract with the foreign countries. But here the situation is like, how can we say that Pakistanis are alien enemy? How can we say that Chinese are alien enemy? That means some rationality we have to give.
So can I say what is an alien enemy?
Sure.
So when when a country is at war, like in 1999 or 2000 when there was Kargil war, so Chinese Kargil was with I guess China, and so Chinese, but that time during the time of war, Chinese were our alien enemies because we were at war with them.
I want to interrupt. Just want to interrupt because I think whether we are at that point we are at war with China. So the point here is,
So I don't remember.
okay, whatever Isha is communicating as an essence of what she has stated, that, and also Devi has answered it in a chat box, that whenever we are at war with other country, and if it is an official declared war, in that case we can say that the person who belong to that other country against whom we are at war, the citizens of that country will be considered as an alien enemy, and in that case we cannot enter into a contract with those citizens. This is what Isha want to say, and this is what Devi has texted. So thank you, Isha and Devi, both. You can, Isha, you can switch off your video. So the only thing is, whenever we are at war, this war is not just a war. There is an official declaration of war. Until and unless the countries declare it as war, we cannot consider that the citizens are alien enemy. We have to declare it that we are at war with the particular country. Then once the declaration is done, the citizens of that country will be considered as an alien enemy, and then we are bound to enter into a contract with them, because those during the time of war are not competent to enter into a contract. This is the concept of alien enemy. So there can be insolvent, alien enemy, convicted prisoners. There can be other persons also, other parties also. So like company, the companies, there is a threshold limit, the upper limit. The companies cannot work beyond that limit. So if the companies are working beyond that limit, the company is actually not entitled to enter into a contract beyond the limit. So if the companies exceeds the limit, that cannot be considered as a contract. So again, they are debarred. They are not competent to enter into a contract after that limit, which is prescribed as per law. So that's why I've written others. So in others, there can be several other categories, but majority of the categories which can be easily understood are these three categories: the insolvent, the alien enemy, and the convicted prisoners. So this, if I revert back to the second slide, so let me check again. So parties who are competent to contract, competent to enter into a contract, major, sound mind, not expressly debarred by law. Who are not competent, just the opposite of it, that the minor, not competent, unsound mind, not competent, expressly debarred by law, not competent to enter into a contract. Now there's there's one case regarding the agreement with minor. Before this case, the situation is not clear actually, that regarding any transaction with minor, what will happen. Okay, so then this case have declared that, and they have clarified the situation, that any agreement with minor will be considered as void ab initio. That means void since the very inception of the transaction, since the very beginning of that agreement. So void, I have already discussed in the starting classes. Void ab initio is a term given in this particular case by the courts. So let us discuss this case. Before starting this case, let us check one example. Number 10. Akarshan, please unmute yourself.
Yes, sir.
Akarshan, there's one question from my side. Kindly switch on your video also.
Yes, sir.
Akarshan, there's a general merchant shop.
Yes, sir.
there are some flats near that general merchant shop, and what happened, in one flat there were 2 children.
Okay.
So general merchant shop, the owner of that shop, he was aware that the two childs were living at a particular flat, and they used to come with their parents when the parents went to that shop to purchase anything. The age of a child, one is 15 years of age, one is 16 years of age. Both went to the shop. When both went to the shop, they asked the shopkeeper that kindly give us 2 Pepsi of 2 liter, 2 Pepsi of 2 liter, and take the money from my parents.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Whether the seller is entitled for his money from the parents?
Yes, sir.
Answer is no.
So, but usually they do pay. So,
Usually they do pay, but if you go to the law says sorry, you are not entitled. Now tell me, contract is with whom?
with the children.
But I think we have just studied below 18 not competent to enter into a contract.
Yes, sir.
So if below 18 is not competent to enter into a contract, so we cannot say there is a contract between a seller and the children.
Yes, sir.
15 years of age, 16 years of age. So my side answer is no. Your side answer is yes. Whether still it's yes or you have changed
No,
your.
sir.
I mean, if we go as per law, please see the
Yes, sir.
section, it was clearly written.
Yes, sir.
Section in the law, it was clearly mentioned that there can be no contract with a minor. Minor are not competent to enter into a contract. So this why I have referred this example, because this is a common practice, isn't it?
Yes,
It's a
sir.
common practice. We used to do like this when we are minor. When I was minor, there are some incidents where we used to do like this. Now the point here is, the moment parents go rigid and the parents refuse to give payment to the seller, then they are right. They can say that there is no contract between you and between my children, because they are not entitled to enter into a contract. And why should I pay?
Right, sir.
Because as per the desire of promisor, you remember when we have discussed section 2 clause A, the promise, proposal. So the minor not entitled to give a proposal, not entitled to direct what the other person consideration have to do. So in that case, here this answer is no. First thing, very, very important, that if parents say no, seller can't do anything. Seller can approach the court, definitely. But even if seller approach the court, that court is not going to provide a relief to the seller, because court have already declared it, any agreement with minor is void ab initio. That means any transaction with a minor is void since the very beginning. And void here means that court will say we cannot recognize it. Whatever you have done, we cannot recognize it. Now see the other side. Being a minor, if minor came to know about this law, don't you think there will be again a chaos?
Yes, sir.
If minor will be taught that you are a minor, you are not entitled, and The seller will not be entitled if we give you anything. What the other miners will do, they'll purchase so many things. And they'll say, take from my parents the money. Because they knew that the parents need not to pay the amount because seller is not entitled. So that's why these situations were discussed in Mohri Bibi versus Dharmodas Ghosh. And after that case, the situation is clarified by the court that what will happen. So Akarshan, thank you. You can mute yourself and you can switch off your video. So firstly, any agreement with a minor is void ab initio. And what happened in this particular case, there is one money lender who used to lend the money. Now what happened? This Dharmodas Ghosh is basically a minor. So Dharmodas Ghosh has asked the money lender that I want a loan from you and I will return it after some time. This money lender knew that Dharmodas Ghosh is a minor. But what happened? That money lender had promised that, okay, I am going to give you the loan and you have to return the money with this some percent of interest. You have to give it back. Now what happened? The mother of Dharmodas Ghosh came to know about that deal. That the money lender is lending some money as a loan to Dharmodas Ghosh, and with the condition that Dharmodas Ghosh have to return it the money in particular time with some interest. She wrote a letter to the money lender that kindly don't give a loan to Dharmodas Ghosh as he is a minor. Don't give a loan. Now what happened? This money lender still have given the loan to Dharmodas Ghosh. After giving the loan to Dharmodas Ghosh, after some time, then he asked to take back the money with interest. So Dharmodas Ghosh has refused. He said that I don't have money at the time. I am not able to return it. So then what happened? This money lender has filed a case in a court, and you can see the name of the female is there in Mohri Bibi. So what happened? That money lender died, and on behalf of the money lender, this representative of the money lender, she contested the case. He filed the case, but he died after some time. So later on, the legal representative of the money lender, they contested the case. In this case, it's Mohri Bibi. So then, because answer I have already provided. Now the point here is the court have analyzed 2-3 things. One is that despite of knowing the fact that Dharmodas Ghosh is a minor, this money lender still have given the loan to him. So court have stated firstly that Dharmodas Ghosh cannot be bound to return back the loan. Now, Akshariti, can you please unmute yourself? Akshariti. Am I audible to you?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Switch on your video also. You able to understand the facts? Akshariti, am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Tell me the facts of this case.
Sir.
From where you reading? You will be puzzled to read. Puzzled if you read from the web. So complicated. Okay, mute yourself and switch off your video. Anyone who can repeat the facts? Okay, Amandeep. Amandeep, can you repeat the facts?
Yes, sir. Dharmodas Ghosh was a miner, and he was owning a property, and he went to the person named Brahmodatta. He was a
Don't take the name, just a money lender.
He was a money lender. So he wanted Dharmodas Ghosh wanted to mortgage the property, and
Want to take a loan.
Want to take a loan after mortgaging his property. So they made a contract between themselves. But later on, when the moneylender went to court to recover the amount from the miner, the court denied it. Means the court didn't accepted it because as Dharmodas Ghosh was a miner.
Okay, thank you, Amandeep. Though you have added few facts, thank you for that. So might be from the web you have checked it. So it's good you have added few facts. So Amandeep, you can mute, switch off your video also. So what happened? Court has refused. Court has stated that sorry, the money can't be returned because he is a minor. Now Dharmodas Ghosh, because mortgage a property which is in his name. So whether the money lender have to give the property back? So the answer is yes. The court have ordered that whatever the mortgage you are having, that you have to return it back. At the same time, court have declared this situation as it is an agreement which is void ab initio. So this terminology basically introduced in this particular case. So court have declared it that any agreement with minor is basically void ab initio, and if anyone do any kind of transaction with a minor, that person cannot recover anything from the minor itself. If it is related to services, if it is related to cash, can't be recovered. But yes, if the things related to kind, if the things are traceable, can be recovered, provided if the party was aware that other party is a minor, and still if we do an agreement, then in that case nothing can be recovered. If minor is a fraudulent, if minor has concealed his age, that is not a minor, he is a major, in that case the things can be recovered from the property of a minor. So that privilege is given, that if minor want to play from the law and he wants to do the fraud from the other party. So in that case, if a minor came to know about that law, even then they cannot take the advantage of it, because law have clarified the situation. So this is actually the concept related to the minor, and this was a landmark case related to it. So that is all in the concept of competency of the parties, and only this much is relevant for you, for the basic understanding, for your basic knowledge, and also for the examination point of view. So let me take the attendance also. Okay. Anandita?
Present, sir.
Abhishek Biswal?
Present, sir.
Abhishek Swain? Abhishek Chandra?
Present, sir.
Abranil?
Present, sir.
Adarsh?
Present, sir.
Aditya Anand?
Yes, sir.
Afreen?
Present, sir.
Afsana?
Present.
Question.
Present, sir.
Akash.
Present, sir.
Yes, I have marked. Akshariti.
Present, sir.
Akshita.
Present, sir.
Disha.
Present, sir.
Aman Weber. Amandeep.
Present, sir.
Amlan. Anand Kumar. Andanu.
Present, sir.
Aniket. Animesh Mohanty.
Present, sir.
Ankit Kumar.
Present, sir.
Ankita. Anshika. Apurva.
Present, sir.
Apurva Tomar. Arpita.
Present, sir.
Arun Nayak. Tishe.
Present, sir.
Atul Sandeep. Absent. Pavita Lakra.
Present, sir.
Ayush Mishra. Barsha Rani. Bipul.
Present, sir.
Bipul is present. Then Barsha is also present.
Yes, sir.
Biswajit
present, sir.
Mohanty.
Present, sir.
Chaitya Swaroop.
Present, sir.
Chirag Jain. Deepshikha Das.
Present, sir.
Devi Vandana.
Present, sir.
Divyesh Agarwal. Isha.
Present, sir.
Faizan Asghar.
Present, sir.
Gautam.
Present, sir.
Hansraj.
Present, sir.
Hargobind. Harivarth.
Present, sir.
Ritik Kumar.
Present, sir.
Ishdeep Singh. Kushal Patel.
Present, sir.
Kaushal Khandelwal.
Present, sir.
Kriti Shri. Sujit Singh.
Present, sir.
Lavleena.
Present, sir.
Manav Shah. Mansita.
Present, sir.
Rinal Das.
Present, sir.
Neil Biswas.
So he asked me to tell you that he attended the first class, but he had to leave during the second class because of some bank work.
Okay. Bhavani.
Present, sir.
Payal.
Yes, sir.
Paushali.
Present, sir.
Prachi.
Present, sir.
Prachi Kukreja.
Present, sir.
Prateek Modi.
Present, sir. Present, sir.
Agarwal.
Present, sir.
Diksha. Okay, that is all from my side for today. And if there's anything you want to ask, feel free to ask. Otherwise, I'll close the meeting. Okay, so no question, I think. So let us meet in the next class. Thank you all for joining. I'm closing the meeting.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.